From the fire escapes of the Bronx to the heights of success. This is From the Fire Escape Podcast. Real stories, real hustle, real people making it happen. No handouts, no shortcuts, just a blueprint to rise. Let's go. Hey, welcome back to From the Fire Escape, where we bring you stories of resilience, adventure, and community from the heart of the Bronx. I'm Taina Carrero, and as always, I'm here with my co-host and mom, Iris.
Hola, everyone. Today we're taking a trip back in time to a summer tradition every Bronx family without a car knows well, the journey to Orchard Beach.
Yes, but before we dive in, here's a Bronx fun fact. Orchard Beach is the only public beach of the Bronx. The 150 acres, 1.1 mile long stretch beach is part of Playa Park. The beach consists of 13 sections. Do you remember telling your friends which section you would be at if they were coming and meeting you there?
Always.
Well, it would either be a section or handball courts or the picnic areas. The recreational facilities included 2 playgrounds, 2 picnic areas, a massive parking lot, and 26 courts for basketball, volleyball, and handball, and they were all packed.
Oh, yes, they were. If we weren't traveling together, it was essential to get the meeting place correct. Sometimes going to the beach was actually just going to a picnic or hearing music coming from the boardwalk or pavilion.
Yeah, Orchard Beach wasn't just about the sand and the water. It was about the experience. The packed buses, the loud music, the coolers filled with homemade food, and the entire neighborhood making their way to the Bronx's one and only beach. If you grew up in the Bronx, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes, indeed. It was a full-day event. The moment you stepped outside, you knew who was heading to the beach, just by the way they were carrying their chairs and coolers down the block.
Mm-hmm.
You could smell the copper tone sunscreen in the air. You'd see boomboxes, kids bouncing around with inflatable tubes, and families strategizing their way to the number 12 bus. It was a mission, but it was one we loved.
Man, it sure was a mission. Now, that journey to Orchard Beach started the day before with the preparations. Well, I would be in the kitchen making a feast, a roasted chicken, some rice, potato salad, you name it. And let's not forget her deli sandwiches also, chips and sodas and those juice boxes she'd freeze overnight so that they stayed cold for the trip. Yeah. She was such a genius. She even had a special way of wrapping the cans of soda in aluminum foil and a paper towel wrapped around that aluminum foil. So it was like double insulation.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, no, I remember because the cans always stayed cold for hours. Another thing Puerto Ricans are good at is fixing and inventing things. Well, that was my abuela's original can cooler. And let me tell you, in those hot ass days, when you were out, that can stayed cold for hours. And we couldn't carry bags of ice to the coolers. Can you imagine carrying ice with all that other stuff? So pretty much everyone froze their drinks the night before.
Every family did that. You'd think we were going on a week-long vacation, not just a beach day. And the next morning, the excitement was real.
Yes.
Getting into our bathing suits, grabbing our towels, and somehow managing to carry all that food, chairs, and beach toys to the bus stop.
Man, now that's resilience. Today, kids would be like, absolutely not.
Hell
Call me an
no.
Uber. Where's the ride? They would not even think about going on this journey.
Take an Uber.
Yeah. It was a community event before we even got there. The number 2 bus on the Grand Concourse was stopped right on our block, took us to Fordham Row, heading north on the Grand Concourse, which we then transferred to the 12 bus, the golden ticket straight to Orchard Beach. And let me tell you, the minute you stepped on that first bus, the energy and excitement were high. You knew it was going to be a good day.
Oh, yeah. That hour ride was a party in itself. Boomboxes, blasting salsa, freestyle, hip-hop. Kids are already getting into the snacks their parents packed. Young couples in love kissing in the back of the bus.
Yep.
Older gentlemen with fishing poles. Moms giving their kids last-minute warnings not to go too far in the water. It was the Bronx in motion.
Yes. And speaking of music, here's a Bronx fact that not everyone knows. Did you know the Bronx is the birthplace of hip-hop?
I did.
Well, 1520 Cedric Avenue to be exact. It was a party, no less. We were always having parties for any reason, whether it be a neighbor's cousin, sister's, brother-in-law's birthday, or someone getting a job. There was always going to be a party for that celebration. And well, that was the case with DJ Kool Kurt at his sister's block party back in 1973, where he extended beats, mixed and scratched, and then he emceed over the track, which today is called rapping, leading the way to an entire cultural movement.
Wow.
Now, of course, today the whole world recognizes it. Back then, it was still growing. DJs, breakdancers, and we're not talking about this crazy chick that showed up in the on the Olympics insulting our culture. We're talking about real breakdancers, block parties, and bringing that whole culture to life. And you saw all of that energy on the way to Orchard Beach. Mix that with congas playing on the boardwalk, and that whole trip felt like an extended block party.
Oh, yeah. And then came the real test, the transfer at Fordham Road. You either made the connection to the number 12 or you missed it and had to wait. That bus was already packed coming from Manhattan, standing room only, and you just hoped someone would give up a seat for the abuela carrying their coolers.
Yeah, and it was like 3 coolers in a shopping cart. They were definitely gentlemen back then, though. I must say, they were gentlemen back then.
Yeah.
That did give up the seat for abuelas or other grandmas or pregnant women or women in general. And while we're on Fordham Road, let's drop another Bronx history gem. Back in the day, Fordham was one of the busiest shopping districts in New York City. Alexander's department store, does that ring a bell?
Yes, indeed.
Who remembers that? Well, that was the spot. Before Macy's, before Bloomingdale's, we had Alexander's. And we can't forget Woolworth's either. It was on the other side. If you didn't find, which was very rare, but if you didn't find what you were looking for in Alexander's, Woolworth was right across, and you can grab some lunch at their in-house diner.
Oh, yeah, that was your grandma's second home, Alexander's. She would walk from 182nd Street to Fordham, stopping at Dollar Savings Bank on one corner and Alexander's on the other. Then she'd head back down to hit up Woolworths and other department stores. She was the ultimate bargain hunter.
She was, and her commitment to the shopping experience, it was unmatched. But completely off topic. Do you remember the UFO that we saw that one night?
Oh my God, yes.
And it was right over the Alexanders.
Yes.
That big red sign. You know, whenever I think of Alexanders, I always think of the huge red sign. And right after that thought, the UFO that flew by that one day.
Oh, yes. Oh my God, I remember that. We had just stepped out of a taxi on 182nd Street when a man yelled, "Mira, mira, E.T."
Yep.
Pointing above the Grand Concourse. We looked up and there it was. A massive round glowing object with colorful lights around the disc-shaped aircraft hovering over the buildings on Grand Concourse, slowly moving towards Fordham Road and the Alexander's red sign. We even called the cops and they brushed it off like it was nothing.
Oh, man, yeah. Well, you know, we were all in shock. And cops said it was nothing, of course, yet our eyes saw something really big and really slow in the sky. Yeah. I mean, we have been lied to for years, but that's another story for another episode.
Indeed. Back to our journey. Getting back to the beach wasn't just about transportation. It was a whole cultural experience. You saw the Bronx in full color. Families, street fashion, music, food. It was a melting pot of resilience and joy.
Oh, it sure was. And sometimes, if the buses were too crowded, we just get off. And we walk part of the way through Pelham Bay Park with all that stuff. You know, we waved to fishermen on the way. You know, we stepped aside for bicyclists. We listened to the cars that were on their way, driving to the Orchard Beach, blasting their music as they passed. But no one was in a rush. We enjoyed the journey just as much as getting to that destination.
Wow, that's so different now. Back then, we were present. We weren't just trying to get somewhere. We were soaking in every moment along the way.
Yes. Stepping off that bus, the first thing you noticed, that smell, that salty beach smell. You know, it was a salty ocean breeze mixed with the scent of fried food from the vendors. I mean, coming from a place where everything is so tightly packed, that open space felt like a gift.
And then the mission to find the perfect spot. Shade or sun, near the water or close to the boardwalk, pavilion or handball courts, or closer to the Pelham Bay picnic area.
That's right. And then once you made the decision, then it was the finally setting it up, unpacking all that stuff, the coolers, and then once everything's unpacked, just running straight to that water. Even though, let's be real, that water was not the cleanest. It was grimy.
No, it sure wasn't. Oh boy, but we didn't care.
Nope.
Part of enjoying every moment was getting into that water with your family and friends. Sometimes we'd stay in the picnic areas with the music blasting and the dancing going all day. After a full day in the sun, it was time for the long journey home. Funny thing is, I barely remember the ride back.
Man, me neither. I mean, we're talking about 20, 30 years ago, and I remember all these other details, but I do not remember the ride home. And it's probably because I was knocked out every time, you know? Naps are life at any age.
Oh, yeah, you always loved your naps, then and now.
For sure. I could take one now. Well, guys, you know, as always, we like to end off our short stories with some book recommendations. And today's book recommendations, I got a little bit on learning more about the Bronx with The Bronx Nobody Knows by William Helmrich. And it's basically a deep dive into the Bronx neighborhoods and its resilient spirit. You know, he walked every single block of the Bronx to write this book. You know, I don't even think I've walked every block of the Bronx. So, you know, definitely worth a read. Another good one is Yes, Yes, Y'all, Oral History of Hip Hop's First Decade by Jim Freak and Charlie Ahern. An absolute must read for all hip hop lovers. This one has a lot of gems in it. And we also have Bodega Dreams by Ernesto Quiñones, a novel capturing the heart of New York City life, Latino life, with the Bronx influences. The author foregrounds the importance of loyalty among Latino communities.
And here is a nice mindset book now that touches on the topic of being more present. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. It emphasizes the importance of living fully in the present moment, arguing that our suffering stems from excessive identification with our thoughts rather than embracing the now as the only reality where true peace can be found.
That's really a good one. And I actually read that one twice. That's another reread, because you find different things when you read great books over and over. You learn something every other time.
True.
And our last recommendation for the day is one that I've read several times, and it's a short read. You can read this constantly, once a month if needed. But Ikigai by Hector Garcia and Frances Miralles. Ikigai is a Japanese term meaning alive, that's the Iki part, and worth, the Gai part. So it's alive and worth. And it explores the Japanese concept of finding one's purpose in life by analyzing the habits and beliefs of the world's longest living people. These people live in the blue zones around the world. You know, the Grand Concourse of the 80s was kind of like an urban blue zone. The way we all looked out for each other and took care of each other.
Yeah.
That's really the premise of Ikigai. Definitely check that out.
Ah, yes. One of my favorites, too. Ikigai is another book you can want to read more than once. And I have. And I will.
Well, we hope you enjoyed our short trip down memory lane today and our journey to Orchard Beach, because it wasn't just about the destination. It was a tradition, a piece of Bronx history, and it still is today. If you have any memories of those beach trips, hit us up. We'd love to hear your stories. We want to hear your side.
Yes, we do. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review. See you next time on From the Fire Escape.
Bye-bye.
Like and subscribe.